hours of January 3rd, and footage was taken on June 2nd, 2022. It happened in Australia. The driver of this vehicle had both a front-facing and rear-facing camera. Around 5 p.m., the driver was pulling up to a red light to turn left. In the rear-facing camera, a Mercedes can be seen pulling up just behind it. Almost immediately after, the driver's side door swings open. A man gets out and starts quickly approaching the vehicle holding some sort of metal object. Fortunately, the driver happened to be looking in the rearview mirror when the door opened, which gave him enough time to react. He was forced to drive off the road and through a patch of grass, cutting 3 cars in front of him. The man with the Mercedes was left standing in the roadway. The driver who uploaded the footage doesn't know what the man wanted. He mentioned how it was possible he could have cut off the Mercedes earlier on the road without knowing, but evidence of this was never found anywhere in the footage. He could have been trying to rob the driver, or maybe even worse. There's no clear way of knowing for sure. To 2020. Shortly after, they were met by this sight. Cars stopped at a light, blocking the road with multiple people standing nearby. As the driver approaches, the car in the middle lane pulls forward and the people outside gesture the driver to pass through. However, just as he tries to do so, a pickup pulls around the corner and blocks the open path. That's when the people outside begin banging on the driver's windows and pulling at the door handles.
It's the cartel.
Yeah.
See that?
The group does whatever they can to get the vehicle to stop, but the quick maneuvers of the driver allow him to speed around the blocking vehicles and get away back in the opposite direction. Groups such as this one are commonly known to set up roadblock traps like this in different areas. Typically, they'll be looking for passing trucks to steal, which they'll then use for a multitude of different purposes. However, they'll also steal wallets, cell phones, and other valuable items from these unsuspecting drivers. Multiple reports of stolen items, including cars, were filed that morning. James Shaw Jr. was a self-proclaimed auto enthusiast. He owned a Subaru Forester and would commonly take it out for joyrides around California. On January 4th, 2015, James was out on Angeles Crest Highway for a scenic ride through the San Gabriel Mountains in Los Angeles County. Because it goes over the mountains, the Angeles Crest Highway is one of the highest elevated roads in Southern California. James was nearing 2 tunnels and recalls speeding up because he said the echo from the tunnels made the exhaust sound better. However, the road had a sharp turn directly after the second tunnel, something James didn't know at the time. He was going too fast to make that sharp of a turn, resulting in a loss of control. He was left skidding towards the edge, all of which was captured on his dash cam. James's car hurls over the edge. However, in a sheer stroke of luck, a drain pipe sticking out from the slope catches his car, saving him from crashing down the mountain, which almost certainly would have been fatal. On top of that, James was left completely uninjured after the crash. He shut off the motor and stepped out onto the drain pipe. From there, he climbed back up to the road and called for assistance. A recovery tow truck retrieved the car, but it was completely totaled. A year later, he posted the dashcam footage online, acknowledging his mistake and hoping others would be able to learn from it. He ultimately admitted that he wasn't paying full attention and had mistakenly assumed the road continued straight after the second tunnel. This dashcam footage was taken from a pickup truck in Chile. The driver had just gotten on a highway on-ramp. As he continued forward, the vehicle just in front of him starts using their brakes to slow down. Eventually, they come to a complete stop altogether. That's when the vehicle's doors swing open. Two guys get out, one armed with what looks like a gun. Initially, the driver tries reversing out of there, but there was now a car behind him. This gave him no other option than to push forward. The vehicle was pushed far enough for the driver to get onto the highway. During the push, the brake lights of the attacker's vehicle are shown turning on, but this has almost no effect on the pickup. The video was shown to police to help identify the men. It was also posted online, to which a few days later, the real owner of the vehicle used by the men recognized the car as their own. It turns out the car had been stolen a few days prior to this video being taken. This is what led police to believe that the men were also trying to steal the pickup. This happened in Canada, north of Toronto, in May of 2021. The dashcam footage shows a vehicle driving down the road, when suddenly a plane streaks by just in front of it. The plane just barely missed the hood of the vehicle, and it crash-landed, hitting the ground in the long grass across the street. The plane suffered damage to its nose and sides. Two were inside the plane at the time, an instructor and his student. They were attempting a touch and go, which is a training exercise where you land on the runway and slow down, only to accelerate again for another takeoff immediately after. It's basically used to practice multiple takeoffs and landings in a short amount of time. However, this time the plane had failed to regain enough altitude when it tried taking off again, forcing it to speed across the road into a crash. Fortunately, no one on the ground was hurt, and neither the instructor nor the student received any major injuries. This footage was captured in Slovakia back in 2012. A family was taking a drive on a narrow country road with trees closely packed on both sides. Eventually, they come across a fallen tree covering the whole other side of the road. However, they continue on. But just in front of them, they find another. As they approach the second one, cracking can be heard just in front of them. A tree was falling, and it started a domino effect with more trees falling closer and closer to their vehicle. The family attempts to reverse out of there, but the trees catch up to them and fall directly on top of their car, leaving them trapped. Meanwhile, even more continue to fall on top of them. The trees falling was later discovered to be the result of what's known as ground destabilization caused by excessive amounts of rain. In the last 8 days, it had rained pretty much non-stop in the area. This waterlogged the soil, making the ground loose, which essentially made it so all the trees didn't have a firm hold in the ground. So when one fell, the small force it put on the surrounding trees was enough to take them down with it. The vehicle clearly suffered damage. However, it's unclear if anyone inside of it was injured during the incident. This dashcam footage was recorded in May of 2020. Shown is a vehicle driving down the road in heavy rain and high wind. The area had been seeing storms like this for the last few weeks. As the driver pushes through it, up ahead power lines begin to tip over. One of them gives out and takes many others down with it. The power lines explode as they hit the wet ground. Cables and debris are left strewn across the highway. A man on a motorcycle coming from the opposite direction can be seen stopping and running on foot into a field to get away from the wires. and shortly after, the driver with the dash cam does something similar. He drives off the road onto a nearby dirt path, power lines still exploding in the distance. It's unknown if anyone was injured during the incident.